Did you know that there is a tunnel over 100 feet beneath the city of Jerusalem? And it was dug over 2,500 years ago. Stay tuned to learn more.
Welcome to Faith Affirming Findings, a podcast dedicated to sharing with you
the incredible discoveries from the field of biblical archaeology.
These findings will strengthen your faith, affirm the historicity of Scripture, and provide you with unique insights into the culture and background of the Bible.
Now, here is your host, Associate Professor of Bible Exposition at Dallas Theological Seminary,
Dr. Paul Weaver.
Today I'm recording this podcast from Fellowship Forney Church, the church where my wife and I are members and where we serve. If you're living in or visiting the Dallas-Fort Worth area, we welcome you to join us. It's a great church focused on the preaching and teaching of God's inspired Word. Now, to today's faith-affirming finding. In 1838 A.D., Edward Robinson made an incredible discovery. What he discovered was a very unique tunnel carrying water that ran beneath the city of Jerusalem, and today that tunnel is known as Hezekiah's Tunnel. Hezekiah's Tunnel is approximately 130 feet underground at a slope of 0.6%. It spans nearly 1,750 feet in length and is only about 2 feet wide, as illustrated in this picture of my wife and me taken, a few years back. Hezekiah's Tunnel travels from the 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐽 Springs, which is a water source outside the walls of the old city, and the tunnel runs underground all the way to the pool of Siloam, inside the city walls and gates. Often enemy siege attempts involved surrounding a city and waiting many days until the city, under attack, ran out of food or water. This would result in them either dying of starvation and dehydration or leaving their fortified walls. And if they left their fortified city walls and gates, they would lose their military advantage. A water source was very important. Over 40 years after the discovery of Hezekiah's Tunnel by Edward Robinson, a young boy discovered an inscription that the archaeologists had missed. It is called the Siloam inscription. This inscription was chiseled into the limestone wall of the tunnel. The original inscription was approximately 25 inches long and 20 inches high. It records the excitement that transpired as two work teams, working simultaneously from either side, completed the tunnel. The Siloam inscription marks the very spot where the two teams met. The inscription is dated to the 8th century BC, the era of King Hezekiah. The majority of the inscription is easily deciphered, although the beginning words were damaged, and other small portions are difficult to read due to the natural effects of being submerged in water over the course of hundreds of years. A loose translation of the reconstructed inscription reads, "And this is the events of the time of the completion of the tunnel, as the men with the pickaxes were digging towards each other, and when they were only 4.5 feet from each other, a man's voice was heard calling to the others. And as they continued to dig towards each other, and one pickaxe met the other, the water began to flow from the spring toward the reservoir for 1,800 feet, and the height of the rock over the heads of the workers was 150 feet. The completion of Hezekiah's Tunnel would have been an incredible engineering accomplishment, even to today's standards. Imagine the excitement of these two work teams as they completed their efforts to secure their great city and provide protection for their families. You might ask, what is the significance of these discoveries to the biblical text? Well, it affirms several details of the biblical text. In 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 20, we read, "The rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made the pool and the conduit and brought water into the city." The passage that I just read is describing the very construction of what we call Hezekiah's tunnel. The discovery of Hezekiah's tunnel and the Siloam inscription affirms the biblical account. Hezekiah prepared for the siege of Sennacherib, king of Assyria, by diverting water from the Gihon spring, a water source outside the city walls, to form a pool inside the city walls. The pool of Siloam is that very water supply. The tunnel was built at the command of Hezekiah to prepare for a siege of the Assyrians, which eventually does occur. And as discussed in episode number 8 about the Lachish relief and episode number 7 on Sennacherib's prison, Sennacherib failed in his attempt to conquer Judah's most important city, the jewel of Judah, Jerusalem, just as the Bible describes and just as God promised. Hezekiah's tunnel is a very popular tourist attraction to this day in Jerusalem, and you can walk through it with water at levels up to your knee. The inscription can be found in the Istanbul Archaeological Museum, and a reproduction of this inscription can also be found in the Israel Museum. Please take just a moment to like this video and subscribe to this channel, and leave us a question or comment below. These actions will help our channel become more accessible to those looking for faith-affirming content. And that is your faith-affirming finding of the week.
Faith Affirming Findings podcast is a listener-supported podcast devoted to affirming your faith in the reliability of Scripture and illuminating your understanding of Scripture.
If you would like to help sponsor the Faith Affirming Finding podcast,
You can make a tax-deductible donation of any amount, large or small,
at faithaffirmingfindings.com. That's faithaffirmingfindings.com, and click on the Give tab.
We hope you'll join us again next week for another exciting Faith Affirming Finding.